Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Frontier, staring at the main screen. The stars looked different here in the Kepler 442 system. They seemed colder somehow. His ship had been traveling for 3 weeks to reach this remote corner of space, all because of a distress signal that kept repeating the same message over and over. "Captain, we're getting close to the source," said Ryan Clark from his position at the communications console. The young officer had been monitoring the signal since they first picked it up near the edge of human space. "It's definitely alien, in origin, but the universal translator is having trouble with some parts." Jake nodded and walked over to where Dr. Lisa Campbell was studying her scanner readings. The ship's doctor and xenobiologist was one of the smartest people he knew, and, if anyone could make sense of what they were about to find, it would be her. "What do you think, Doc?" Jake asked. Lisa looked up from her instruments with a worried expression. "The biosignatures are weak, Captain. Whatever happened here, it wasn't good. I'm reading life signs, but they're fading fast." The main screen flickered as they came around a small moon. What they saw made everyone on the bridge go quiet. Floating in space ahead of them was the wreckage of a ship unlike anything they had ever seen. It was beautiful, even in its destroyed state, with flowing lines that looked more grown than built. Parts of it still glowed with a soft blue light. "My God," whispered Amanda Torres, the ship's security chief. "What could have done that?" The alien vessel looked like it had been torn apart by something with huge claws. Long gashes ran along its hull, and several sections had been completely ripped away. Debris floated around it in a slow, sad dance. "Ryan, can you boost the signal from the distress call?" Jake asked. The communications officer worked at his console for a few minutes before nodding. "Got it, Captain. The translation is getting clearer now." A voice filled the bridge, speaking in accented but understandable English. "This is Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian trade vessel Harmony's Dream. We are under attack by the creature the locals call the Void Stalker. Our weapons are useless against it. If anyone receives this message, do not attempt rescue. Flee this system immediately. The creature is drawn to energy signatures and will attack any ship that approaches." Jake felt a chill run down his spine, but not from fear, from curiosity. "Ben, are you picking up any life signs in that wreck?" Science Officer Ben Rodriguez bent over his scanner. "Yes, sir. Very faint. Looks like there might be 3 survivors, but their readings are getting weaker." "Amanda, prepare a rescue team," Jake ordered. "Lisa, get the medical bay ready for alien casualties." "Captain," Ryan said, his voice tight with worry. "Didn't you hear what that alien said? There's some kind of monster out there that destroyed their ship." Jake turned to face his crew. These people had followed him through dangerous situations before, and he trusted them completely. But he also knew that sometimes being human meant doing things that seemed crazy to everyone else. "I heard him," Jake said calmly. "But there are people dying over there, and we're not going to just leave them." The rescue operation took 2 hours. The alien ship was so badly damaged that they had to cut through several walls to reach the survivors. When they finally brought them aboard the Frontier, Jake got his first look at a member of the Zephyrian species. Commander Veltar was tall and graceful, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer slightly under the ship's lights. His large eyes were a deeper blue, and they held an intelligence that was both alien and somehow familiar. 2 other survivors lay on stretchers, unconscious but breathing. "Thank you," Veltar said as Dr. Campbell tended to a nasty cut on his arm. "But you have made a terrible mistake coming here. The Void Stalker will return. It always returns." Jake pulled up a chair next to the medical bed where the alien commander was resting. "Tell me about this creature. What exactly are we dealing with?" Veltar's large eyes seemed to grow even larger with fear. "It is death itself, Captain Morrison. We first encountered reports of it 6 months ago. Entire trading fleets have vanished. The few survivors all tell the same story. A creature the size of a small ship, black as space itself with claws that can tear through any hull. But it's just an animal, right?" asked Ben Rodriguez, who had joined them in the medical bay. "I mean, it can be killed." Veltar shook his head slowly. "That is what we thought. The Zephyrian Defense Force sent 3 battleships to hunt it down. We found their wreckage scattered across an entire star system. The creature is not just strong, Captain. It is intelligent. It learns from every encounter, adapts to every weapon used against it. Dr. Campbell looked up from her medical scanner. Commander Veltar, you mentioned that it's drawn to energy signatures. Does that mean it hunts by detecting ships? Yes, Veltar replied. But it is more than that. The creature seems to enjoy the hunt. Our psychologists believe it feeds not just on flesh, but on fear itself. It toys with its prey, letting them think they might escape before closing in for the kill. Jake stood up and walked to the small window in the medical bay. Outside, he could see the wreckage of the Zephyrian ship slowly spinning in space. How big did you say this thing was? Nearly 40 meters long, Veltar said. But it moves through space like it was swimming through water, and its hide absorbs light, making it almost invisible until it attacks. Amanda Torres stepped into the medical bay. Captain, I've been analyzing the damage to their ship. Whatever did this has claws or teeth that are incredibly sharp. The metal looks like it was sliced through with a laser. You must leave this system immediately, Veltar said, trying to sit up despite Dr. Campbell's protests. The creature will have sensed your ship's arrival. It is probably already on its way here. Jake turned back to face the alien commander. How long do we have? Hours at most, Veltar replied. Captain, your species may be new to space travel, but surely you understand the concept of self-preservation. This creature has destroyed ships far more advanced than yours. But Jake was thinking about something else entirely. Throughout human history, his species had encountered countless predators: bears, lions, sharks, wolves. Each one had seemed impossible to defeat at first. Each one had been called a perfect killing machine. And yet humans had not only survived, they had thrived. They had learned to understand these predators, to predict their behavior, and in many cases, to live alongside them. Ryan, send a message to Earth Command, Jake ordered. Tell them we've made contact with survivors of an alien attack and are investigating the threat. Captain, Veltar said desperately, you do not understand. This is not some simple beast. The Void Stalker is a nightmare given form. It cannot be reasoned with, cannot be bargained with. It exists only to hunt and kill. Jake looked at the fear in the alien's eyes and felt something that surprised him. Not fear, but excitement. Humanity had always been at its best when facing the impossible. Maybe it was time to show the galaxy what humans were really capable of. Amanda, have your security teams prepare for possible contact, Jake said. Ben, I want a full analysis of that wreckage. Look for any patterns in the attack, anything that might tell us how this creature thinks. Veltar stared at the human captain in disbelief. You are not going to flee. Jake smiled, and it was not a cruel smile, but one filled with the kind of confidence that had carried his species from the caves to the stars. Commander, humans have a saying. The only way to deal with a bully is to stand up to it. The alien commander closed his large blue eyes and whispered something in his own language, that the translator rendered as, "May the stars have mercy on us all." 3 hours had passed since they rescued the Zephyrian survivors. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the main conference room with his senior officers, studying the data they had collected from the alien wreckage. Commander Veltar sat at the far end of the table, his blue skin looking pale with worry. The attack patterns are interesting, said Science Officer Ben Rodriguez, pointing to the holographic display floating above the table. Look at these claw marks, they're not random. The creature knew exactly where to strike to cause maximum damage. Dr. Lisa Campbell nodded as she examined the medical data from the survivors. The Zephyrians show signs of extreme psychological trauma. Their stress hormone levels are off the charts even now that they're safe. Safe, Veltar said quietly. You use that word, but you do not understand its meaning. Nothing is safe when the Void Stalker hunts. Amanda Torres, the security chief, looked up from her tactical display. I've been running combat simulations based on the data we collected. Our weapons should be effective against a creature of this size, assuming it follows normal biological rules. It does not follow your rules, Veltar said. his large eyes reflecting the holographic light. The creature exists outside the normal understanding of life. It is death walking among the stars. Jake could see the fear in the alien commander's face, but he had made his decision. Amanda, what's our defensive status? All weapon systems are online and ready, she replied. I've positioned security teams at key points throughout the ship. If this thing tries to board us, we'll be ready. Captain Morrison, Veltar said, standing up from his chair. I beg you to reconsider. My people have faced this creature before. Entire fleets have tried to fight it. They all failed. Jake turned to face the alien commander. With respect, Commander, your people are traitors and diplomats. We're explorers. We've had to fight for everything we've achieved. Before Veltar could respond, the ship's alarm system activated. Ryan Clark's voice came over the communication system. Captain, to the bridge immediately. We have contact. Everyone hurried to the bridge. The main screen showed empty space, but Ben Rodriguez was working frantically at his sensor station. I'm picking up something on the edge of our scanner range. It's big, Captain, and it's moving fast. How fast? Jake asked. Faster than anything that size should be able to move, Ben replied. It's also giving off some kind of interference pattern. My sensors keep losing track of it. Veltar pointed at the screen with a shaking hand. There, do you see it? Jake squinted at the display. For a moment, he saw nothing but stars. Then something moved, like a shadow passing across the light. It was huge, easily the size of a small shuttle, but it seemed to bend light around itself. My God, whispered Dr. Campbell. It's like it's absorbing the starlight. The creature was moving in a strange pattern, circling their ship at a distance. Jake could feel his heart beating faster, but not from fear, from excitement. This was the kind of challenge that made life worth living. Amanda, bring all weapons online, he ordered. But don't fire unless I give the command. Captain, Veltar said desperately. It is studying your ship, learning your weaknesses. This is how it always begins. As if responding to the alien's words, the creature suddenly changed direction and shot straight toward the frontier. The main screen filled with the image of something that looked like it had been pulled from humanity's darkest nightmares. The Void Stalker was sleek and powerful, with a hide that seemed to swallow light. Its head was elongated, with rows of teeth that gleamed like metal. 6 powerful limbs ended in claws that looked sharp enough to cut through steel. But it was the creature's eyes that struck Jake the most. They were intelligent, calculating, and filled with a kind of cruel amusement. It's beautiful, Dr. Campbell said softly, and everyone turned to stare at her. I mean, from a biological standpoint, look how perfectly adapted it is for hunting in space. The creature slammed into the ship's shields, causing the entire vessel to shake. Warning lights flashed across the bridge as the shield generators struggled to absorb the impact. Shields down to 80%, reported Ben Rodriguez. That thing hits harder than a torpedo. The Void Stalker pulled back and circled the ship again, its movements graceful and deadly. Jake could see it studying their defenses, looking for weak points. Fire a warning shot, Jake ordered. Let's see how it reacts. Amanda targeted the space just in front of the creature and fired a low-power pulse from their main cannon. The energy beam lit up the darkness, but the Void Stalker moved aside with impossible speed. What surprised everyone was what happened next. The creature turned to face the weapon that had fired and let out a sound that came through the ship's hull like a challenge. It's not afraid, Jake said with admiration. It's actually enjoying this. The creature attacked again, this time from a different angle. Its claws raked across the ship's hull, sending sparks flying. The sound of metal being torn echoed through the corridors. Hull breach on Deck 7, reported Ryan Clark. Emergency teams are responding. Jake made a quick decision. All hands prepare for evasive maneuvers. Ben, can you predict its attack patterns? I'm trying, Captain, but it keeps changing its approach. It's like it's learning from each attack. The battle continued for 20 minutes. The Void Stalker was incredibly fast and seemed to know exactly where to strike to cause the most damage. But Jake's crew was learning too. They began to anticipate the creature's movements, working together, like they had trained for years. Captain, Amanda called out. "I think I can get a clear shot if we can slow it down somehow." That's when ship's engineer Kate Sullivan made a mistake that changed everything. She was trying to repair a damaged power conduit when she accidentally triggered an electromagnetic pulse from the ship's backup generators. The pulse wasn't meant to be a weapon, but it washed over the Void Stalker like a wave. The creature's reaction was immediate and dramatic. It stopped its attack run and began floating in space, moving its head back and forth like it was confused. The intelligent gleam in its eyes was replaced by something that looked almost like bewilderment. "What just happened?" Jake asked. Kate's voice came through the communication system, embarrassed and worried. "Sorry, Captain, I triggered an EMP by accident while trying to fix the power grid." Dr. Campbell was staring at her scanner readings. "Captain, the creature's biosignatures have changed. Its brain activity looks different now." The Void Stalker was still floating near their ship, but its behavior had completely changed. Instead of the calculating predator they had been fighting, it now moved like a confused animal. It approached the ship slowly, almost cautiously, and touched the hull with one claw in what seemed like curiosity rather than aggression. "It's like it doesn't remember what it was doing," Ben observed. Jake stared at the creature on the main screen. An idea was forming in his mind, one that would have seemed insane just an hour ago. "Amanda, can we get a containment field ready in the cargo bay?" "Captain?" Amanda asked, not sure she had heard correctly. "You heard me. If we can get that thing into our cargo bay, we might be able to study it properly." Feltar stood up so quickly that he knocked over his chair. "Captain Morrison, you cannot be serious. That creature is the most dangerous predator in known space." Jake looked at the alien commander, then back at the screen where the Void Stalker was gently touching their ship with what almost looked like affection. "Commander, on Earth we have a saying, every monster is just a misunderstood animal waiting for the right person to come along." The bridge went silent except for the steady hum of the ship's engines. Finally, Dr. Campbell spoke up. "Captain, if that EMP disrupted some kind of pack connection, the creature might be experiencing individual consciousness for the first time in its life." Jake nodded. "That's what I'm thinking too. Amanda, prepare the cargo bay. We're going to try something that's either brilliant or completely insane." "Probably both," Amanda muttered, but she began entering commands into her console. As the crew prepared to attempt the impossible task of capturing a Void Stalker, Jake watched the creature on the screen. It had stopped trying to damage their ship and was now following them as they moved, like a lost pet trying to find its way home. "This is either going to make us famous or get us all killed," he said quietly. "Knowing our luck," Ben replied. "Probably both." The cargo bay had been transformed into something that looked like a giant cage. Force fields hummed along the walls, creating an invisible barrier that could hold even the most dangerous creatures. Captain Jake Morrison stood outside the containment area watching as his crew made final preparations. "Are you sure about this, Captain?" asked Amanda Torres for the 10th time. The security chief had her hand on her weapon, ready for anything. "No," Jake admitted. "But sometimes the best decisions are the ones that scare you the most." The Void Stalker floated just outside the ship's cargo bay doors, still acting confused and gentle. It had followed them for the past hour, occasionally touching the ship's hull with what seemed like curiosity rather than aggression. "Opening cargo bay doors," announced Kate Sullivan from the engineering console. "Force fields are at maximum strength." The massive doors slid open, revealing the creature in all its terrifying beauty. Up close, it was even more impressive than on the main screen. Its dark hide seemed to ripple like liquid shadow, and its 6 powerful limbs moved with fluid grace. But the most striking change was in its eyes. The cruel intelligence was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like wonder. "Come on," Jake said softly, as if talking to a nervous animal. "Nobody's going to hurt you." To everyone's amazement, the Void Stalker slowly entered the cargo bay. It moved carefully, looking around at the walls and ceiling like it was exploring a new home. When the containment field activated behind it, the creature didn't panic or try to escape. Instead, it settled down in the center of the space and watched the humans through the barrier. Commander Veltar arrived at the cargo bay with the other Zephyrian survivors. They stared at the contained creature with expressions of pure terror. "This is madness," Veltar whispered. "You have trapped death itself in your ship." Dr. Lisa Campbell approached the containment field with her medical scanner. "Actually, I think we might have saved it. Look at these readings. Its stress levels are dropping and its brain activity is becoming more organized." The creature watched Dr. Campbell as she worked, tilting its elongated head like a curious dog. When she moved to a different position, its eyes followed her. "It's watching you, Lisa," said Ben Rodriguez from his position at the monitoring station, "but not like it wants to eat you. More like it's trying to figure out what you're doing." Jake stepped closer to the containment field. The Void Stalker immediately focused on him, and for a moment, he felt a chill of fear. Then the creature did something unexpected. It lowered its head slightly in what looked almost like a bow. "Well, I'll be damned," Jake said quietly. Over the next few hours, the crew took turns observing their unusual prisoner. Dr. Campbell was especially fascinated by the creature's behavior. She set up monitoring equipment around the containment area and began documenting everything. "I'm calling it Shadow," she announced during the evening briefing, "because of the way it absorbs light." "You're naming it?" Veltar asked in horror. "It is not a pet. It is a killing machine. Right now it's acting more like a confused child than a killing machine," Dr. Campbell replied. "Watch this." She returned to the cargo bay and approached the containment field. Shadow immediately came over to the barrier, moving its head close to where she stood. When Dr. Campbell moved her hand along the outside of the field, Shadow followed the movement with its eyes. "It's learning to recognize us as individuals," she explained. "Yesterday it saw us as prey. Today we're something else entirely." Ships. Cook Danny Martinez had been watching from the doorway. "Doctor, can I try something?" Dr. Campbell nodded and Danny stepped forward. He was carrying a small music player, something he used in the kitchen while preparing meals. He turned it on, and the soft sounds of classical music filled the cargo bay. Shadow's reaction was immediate and surprising. The creature's entire body seemed to relax and it moved closer to the source of the sound. It even began to sway slightly, as if dancing to the music. "Look at that," Danny said with wonder. "It likes Beethoven." "That's impossible," Veltar said. "The creature has no appreciation for art or beauty. It exists only to hunt and kill." But Shadow was clearly enjoying the music. When Danny changed to a different piece, the creature's movements changed too, adapting to the new rhythm. It was like watching a massive, deadly ballet dancer. "This changes everything," Dr. Campbell said excitedly. "If it can appreciate music, it has an aesthetic sense. That means it's capable of experiencing beauty, not just hunger." Crewman Nicole Peterson had been observing quietly from the corner. She was one of the ship's junior officers, and usually kept to herself. But now she stepped forward with an interesting observation. "Doctor, I've been watching how it reacts to different people. It seems to like some of us more than others." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. Nicole pointed to the creature. "Watch what happens when someone who's afraid approaches the barrier." She gestured to one of the Zephyrian survivors, who reluctantly came closer to the containment field. Shadow immediately moved away from that side of the barrier, turning its back on the frightened alien. "Now watch what happens when someone calm approaches," Nicole continued. Dr. Campbell walked to the barrier, and Shadow immediately came over to greet her, pressing close to the force field like a cat seeking attention. "It's reading our emotions," Jake realized. "Fear makes it withdraw. Calm confidence draws it closer." This discovery led to an interesting experiment. Over the next few days, different crew members spent time near Shadow's containment area. The creature clearly preferred some people over others, but its preferences seemed to be based entirely on how calm and confident they were. Amanda Torres, despite being the ship's security chief, turned out to be one of Shadow's favorites. Her steady professional demeanor seemed to put the creature at ease. Ben Rodriguez, who was naturally curious and enthusiastic, also earned Shadow's approval. Ryan Clark, however, was still nervous around the creature, and Shadow seemed to sense this. Whenever Ryan approached, the creature would move to the far side of the containment area. "It's like dealing with a very large, very dangerous dog," Amanda observed. "Confidence is key." Meanwhile, the Zephyrian survivors continued to broadcast warnings to their homeworld about the humans' insane decision to domesticate a void stalker. The responses they received ranged from disbelief to outright panic. "The Galactic Council is demanding that you destroy the creature immediately," Veltar told Jake during one of their daily meetings. "They consider it too dangerous to be kept alive." "And what do you think?" Jake asked. Veltar was quiet for a long moment. 3 days ago I would have agreed with them completely, but I have been watching your crew interact with the creature. I have seen things that should be impossible. Such as, yesterday I saw your Dr. Campbell accidentally drop her scanner near the containment field. The creature could have easily grabbed it, perhaps used it to damage the force field. Instead, it gently pushed the device back toward her with the tip of one claw. Jake nodded. Shadow's been showing more and more protective behaviors. When the night shift comes on duty, it positions itself where it can watch all the entrances to the cargo bay. "You truly believe it is protecting you?" Veltar asked. "I think it's starting to see us as its pack," Jake replied, "and pack animals protect their family." That evening, Jake found himself alone in the cargo bay with Shadow. The creature was resting in the center of its containment area, but its eyes were alert and focused on him. "What are you thinking about?" Jake asked quietly, knowing the creature couldn't understand his words but hoping it might understand his tone. Shadow rose and approached the barrier. It studied Jake's face for a long moment, then did something that made the captain's heart skip a beat. The creature extended one claw and gently touched the force field at the exact spot where Jake's hand was pressed against the outside. For a moment, man and monster were separated by nothing but energy and understanding. Jake felt no fear, only curiosity about this amazing creature that had somehow found its way into their lives. "You're not a monster at all, are you?" Jake said softly. "You're just lost and looking for somewhere to belong." Shadow tilted its head and made a soft sound, almost like a purr. It was a sound of contentment, of belonging, of finding family in the most unexpected place. Outside the ship, the stars continued their ancient dance, unaware that the balance of power in the galaxy was about to shift in ways no one could have predicted. It had been 1 week since Shadow joined the crew of the UES Frontier. The creature had become part of their daily routine. Every morning it would wait by the containment field for Dr. Lisa Campbell to arrive with her scanner. Every evening, it would position itself near the cargo bay entrance like a guard watching over its territory. Captain Jake Morrison was in his ready room, reading reports about their unusual passenger, when the ship's alarm suddenly started blaring. Ryan Clark's voice came through the communication system, tight with fear. "Captain, to the bridge now. We have big problems coming our way." Jake ran to the bridge, followed by Amanda Torres and Ben Rodriguez. What he saw on the main screen made his blood freeze. 6 massive shapes were moving toward their ship through the darkness of space. Each one was as large as Shadow, but these creatures moved with deadly purpose. "Void stalkers," whispered Commander Veltar, who had arrived on the bridge just moments before. "A full hunting pack." Ben Rodriguez worked quickly at his scanner. "They're bigger than Shadow, Captain, much bigger, and they're moving together like they share the same mind." Jake tried to keep his voice steady. "How long before they reach us?" 8 minutes, Ben replied. "But Captain, I don't think they're just hunting us. They're coming for Shadow." As if the creature could hear them talking about it, Shadow's loud roars echoed through the ship. Down in the cargo bay, the creature was moving back and forth, clearly sensing that its former pack was approaching. "It knows they're coming," Dr. Campbell said over the speakers from the cargo bay. "Its heart rate is going crazy, but it's not trying to escape. It looks like it's getting ready for a fight." Jake made a decision that surprised everyone on the bridge. "Lisa, can you turn off the containment field?" "Captain?" Amanda asked, her hand moving toward her weapon. "If those things are coming to take Shadow back, maybe we should let it choose where it wants to be," Jake explained. Veltar stared at the human captain like he had lost his mind. You want to release the creature? Captain Morrison? If it goes back to its pack, they will destroy this ship and everyone on it. Maybe, Jake said. Or maybe Shadow has found a new pack to belong to. Dr. Campbell's voice came through the speakers. Containment field is down, Captain. Shadow is free to move around the entire cargo bay now. On the main screen, the approaching pack was close enough to see clearly. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. 6 perfect predators moving through space like deadly fish through dark water. Unlike Shadow, these creatures showed no curiosity or hesitation. They looked like pure killing machines. They're sending out some kind of signal, Ben reported. Very low frequency, almost like they're talking to each other. In the cargo bay, Shadow had stopped pacing. The creature stood perfectly still for a moment, then lifted its head and made a sound unlike anything the crew had ever heard. It was part roar, part song, and completely alien. It's answering them, Dr. Campbell said with amazement. The approaching pack suddenly changed direction, moving even faster now. Instead of heading for the ship's engines or weapons, they were heading straight for the cargo bay where Shadow was waiting. All crew to battle stations, Jake ordered. Amanda, get your security teams around the cargo bay. If this goes wrong, we need to be ready. The first pack member reached the ship and crashed into the hull right outside the cargo bay. The impact was so strong that it shook the entire ship. Warning lights flashed on every control panel. Hull damage in cargo bay area, reported Kate Sullivan from engineering. The outer doors are holding, but they won't take much more of this. Then something happened that no one expected. Shadow moved to the damaged part of the cargo bay and put itself between the attacking creature and the rest of the ship. When the pack member tried to break through the hull again, Shadow was there to stop it. The fight that followed was like nothing anyone had ever seen before. Shadow fought with desperate fury, not to escape or to hunt, but to protect. Every time one of the pack members tried to break into the ship, Shadow was there to drive them back. It's defending us, Amanda said in amazement as she watched the security cameras. It's actually fighting its own kind to protect the ship. The pack seemed confused by Shadow's behavior. They had come to bring back a lost member, but instead, they found a creature that was willing to fight them to protect strange aliens. Their coordinated attacks became uncertain and hesitant. Dr. Campbell was watching Shadow's medical readings on her scanner. Its stress levels are incredible, Captain. But look at this, its brain activity shows the same patterns we see in Earth dogs when they're protecting their families. It thinks we're its family, Jake realized. The battle went on for 20 minutes. Shadow was fighting 6 against 1, but it had advantages the pack didn't expect. It knew the ship's layout, it knew where the weak spots were, and most importantly, it was fighting for something more than just staying alive. Chief Medical Officer Carl Johnson had been watching the fight from the medical bay. Captain, I'm seeing something very interesting in Shadow's blood work. Its protective hormone levels are spiking exactly like we see in dogs protecting their owners. One of the pack members managed to break through into a storage room next to the cargo bay. It was heading toward the corridor that led to the crew sleeping quarters when Shadow caught it. The two creatures crashed together with tremendous force, and for a moment it looked like Shadow might lose. That's when something amazing happened. Danny Martinez, the ship's cook, appeared in the corridor behind the attacking creature. He was carrying one of the ship's emergency flares, and without thinking twice, he set it off right behind the pack member. The bright light and loud noise scared the creature, giving Shadow the chance it needed. Shadow grabbed its former pack, made and threw it back toward the hole in the hull. Did Danny just help Shadow fight off a Void Stalker? Ben asked in disbelief. I think he did, Jake replied with pride in his voice. The battle began to turn in their favor. The pack members were used to hunting scared prey, not fighting a determined defender with help from alien friends. One by one, they began to back away, confused and frustrated that they couldn't get their lost member back. Shadow chased them to the edge of the ship, making sure they understood that this territory was now protected. When the last pack member disappeared into the darkness of space, Shadow returned to the cargo bay and collapsed from exhaustion. Dr. Campbell rushed to check on the creature while the rest of the crew looked at the damage to the ship. Shadow was hurt but not badly. More importantly, it seemed calm and satisfied, like a dog that had successfully protected its home from burglars. "Well," Jake said as he read through the damage reports, "I think we can safely say that Shadow has picked its side." Commander Veltar walked up to the captain with wonder in his large blue eyes. "Captain Morrison, what I saw today should be impossible. A void stalker, choosing aliens over its own kind, fighting to protect instead of to kill. My people will never believe this happened." "Then we'll have to show them," Jake replied. "Shadow isn't our prisoner anymore. It's our partner." In the cargo bay, Shadow had curled up in its favorite spot near the entrance. But now it wasn't just watching for threats from outside. It was guarding its family, its pack, its home. The creature that had once been the galaxy's most feared predator was now the ship's most loyal guardian. And somewhere in the darkness of space, 5 confused void stalkers were trying to understand how their perfect hunting partner had become someone else's pet. Dr. Campbell sat nearby, writing notes in her research journal. "The meaning of this is incredible," she said quietly. "If humans can make friends with void stalkers, what other impossible things might we be able to do?" Outside the ship, the stars continued their endless dance, but the galaxy would never be quite the same again. Word was already spreading through subspace communication networks about the humans who had done the impossible. Soon, every species in known space would know about the ship where a void stalker chose to become a protector instead of a predator. Back on the bridge, Jake looked out at the stars and smiled. They had come to this system to answer a distress call, and they had ended up making history. Not bad for a day's work. Shadow's contented purring echoed softly through the ship's corridors, a sound that spoke of home, family, and belonging in the vast emptiness of space. 2 weeks after the pack attack, the UES Frontier was docked at Zephyrian Station Alpha, the largest space station in the Kepler 442 system. Word of what had happened aboard the human ship had spread across the galaxy faster than anyone thought possible. Representatives from dozens of species had come to see the impossible sight with their own eyes. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the station's main conference room, facing a gathering of alien diplomats, scientists, and military officers. Through the large windows, he could see his ship in the docking bay, with Shadow visible in the modified cargo area that had become the creature's permanent home. "Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings," Jake began, "I know why you're all here. You want to understand how we managed to domesticate what you call the galaxy's most dangerous predator." A tall insect-like being from the Arcturus Collective clicked its mandibles impatiently. "Captain Morrison, what you have done is not domestication. It is temporary control at best. The creature will eventually revert to its natural state and kill you all." Dr. Lisa Campbell stepped forward with her data pad. "Actually, our research shows quite the opposite. Shadow's behavior has stabilized completely. Its stress hormones are at normal levels, and its brain activity shows patterns consistent with bonded pack animals from Earth." Commander Veltar, who had become something of a celebrity among his own people for surviving a void stalker encounter, nodded in agreement. "I have seen the creature's transformation with my own eyes. What the humans have accomplished should be impossible, but the evidence is undeniable." A representative from the Galactic Safety Council, a species known for their careful approach to dangerous situations, leaned forward. "Captain Morrison, even if your creature is currently docile, the risk to galactic civilization is too great. We must insist that it be destroyed." Jake felt a flash of anger, but he kept his voice calm. "With respect, Counselor, Shadow is not my creature. It's a member of my crew. And we don't kill crew members just because other people are afraid of them." The room erupted in surprised voices and concerned chittering. The idea of a void stalker being considered a crew member was apparently too much for some of the assembled beings to accept. "Perhaps," said a gentle voice from the back of the room, "we should see this creature for ourselves before making any decisions." The speaker was Ambassador Cassara from the Peaceful Worlds Alliance, a coalition of species known for their diplomatic approach to problems. She was small and bird-like, with bright golden feathers and large, intelligent eyes. Jake smiled. I was hoping someone would ask. Shadow has been wanting to meet new people. The group moved slowly through the station's corridors toward the docking bay. Jake could see the fear in many of the aliens' faces, but also curiosity. When they reached the viewing area overlooking the Frontier's modified cargo bay, several of the beings gasped in surprise. Shadow was not pacing or showing signs of aggression. Instead, the massive creature was curled up in a corner of its space, listening to classical music that Danny Martinez was playing from a speaker system. Occasionally, Shadow would move its head in time with the rhythm, looking for all the world, like a giant deadly cat enjoying a peaceful afternoon. "It's so calm," whispered Ambassador Cassara. Dr. Campbell activated the communication system. "Shadow, we have visitors who would like to meet you." The creature's head turned toward the viewing window, and its large eyes focused on the group of alien observers. Instead of the predatory stare they expected, Shadow tilted its head in what looked like polite curiosity. "May I try something?" asked Dr. Campbell. Jake nodded, and Dr. Campbell entered the cargo bay area. Shadow immediately came over to greet her, moving with careful grace to avoid accidentally hurting the much smaller human. The creature lowered its head so Dr. Campbell could place her hand on its smooth hide. "As you can see," Dr. Campbell said, "to the observers, Shadow is completely comfortable with physical contact. It has learned to control its strength around smaller beings." A military officer from the Rigel Defense Force stepped forward. "Doctor, that creature destroyed 3 of our battleships last year. How do we know it won't revert to its old behavior?" "Doctor," Campbell smiled and pulled a small metal ball from her pocket. "Shadow, fetch." She threw the ball across the cargo bay. The massive predator that had once terrorized entire star systems bounded after the ball like an excited puppy, caught it gently in its teeth and brought it back to Dr. Campbell. The silence from the viewing area was complete. "That," said Ambassador Cassara finally, "is the most remarkable thing I have ever seen." Over the next few hours, more demonstrations followed. Shadow showed off its ability to respond to voice commands, its gentle behavior around crew members, and its protective instincts when a security droid was programmed to act threateningly near the cargo bay. But the real breakthrough came when Ben Rodriguez brought up the holographic display showing Shadow's brain activity. "Look at these patterns," he explained to the assembled scientists. "When Shadow is around the crew, its brain shows the same neural pathways we see in Earth dogs when they're with their human families. The creature has literally rewired its brain to form pack bonds with us." The representative from the Arcturus Collective studied the data carefully. "These readings suggest that the creature's fundamental nature has been altered. It is no longer operating on pure predatory instinct." "Exactly," Dr. Campbell agreed. "The electromagnetic pulse that first affected Shadow didn't just disrupt its connection to the pack. It freed its individual consciousness to form new types of relationships." Ambassador Cassara turned to Jake. "Captain Morrison, my government would like to make a formal request. We have several species in our territory that have been problematic for our colonies. Creatures that we've never been able to communicate with or control. Would you consider helping us?" Before Jake could answer, other voices joined in. The representative from the Rigel Defense Force wanted help with the crystal entities that kept destroying mining operations. The Arcturus Collective had issues with energy beings that disrupted their computer networks. "It seems," Jake said with a smile, "that humanity might have found its calling in the galaxy." Dr. Campbell was already making notes. "We'll need to study each species individually. What works for void stalkers might not work for other creatures, but the basic principle should be the same: understanding, patience, and the willingness to see potential companions instead of monsters." Commander Veltar approached Jake as the formal meeting broke up. "Captain, my people's government wants to offer you an official position as Galactic Animal Behavior Specialist. The pay would be considerable." Jake laughed. "That's quite a job title, but I think we'll stick with being explorers for now, though we'd be happy to help when we're needed." As the alien representatives prepared to leave, Ambassador Cassara had one final question. "Captain Morrison, how did your species develop this remarkable ability to bond with dangerous creatures?" Jake thought for a moment. "I think it's because we've always been both predator and prey ourselves. We understand what it's like to be dangerous and vulnerable at the same time. Maybe that helps us see past the scary exterior to the individual underneath. That evening, Jake found himself alone with Shadow in the cargo bay. The creature was resting after a long day of meeting new people, but its eyes were alert and focused on its human friend. "Well, Shadow," Jake said quietly, "looks like you've made us famous, the galaxy's premier monster tamers." Shadow made a soft, purring sound and gently touched Jake's shoulder with the tip of one claw. It was a gesture of affection that would have been impossible just weeks ago. "The funny thing is," Jake continued, "I don't think we tamed you at all. I think you chose to become part of our family, and that makes all the difference." Outside the station, ships from dozens of worlds were arriving daily, all wanting to learn more about the humans who had turned the galaxy's most feared predator into a beloved pet. The requests for help were piling up, and Jake knew that his crew's quiet exploration mission had become something much bigger. But as he watched Shadow settle down for the night, positioning itself where it could guard the entrance to the cargo bay, Jake felt a deep satisfaction. They had proven that the universe was full of potential friends, not just enemies. Sometimes you just had to be brave enough to offer your hand instead of a weapon. The galaxy would never be quite the same again, and that was exactly how Jake Morrison liked it.